This is American First Patriot Podcast. Defending freedom and liberty is our motto. I'm your host, Chauncey Brown. Welcome to the show. I'm excited to have on our show tonight a young man who grew up in the ghetto of Paterson, New Jersey, went off to the Air Force, came back to his hometown, where he still resides in the heart of the Fourth Ward in the ghetto today. At 30 years old, Billy Prempeh secured the nomination of the Republican Party in New Jersey's 9th Congressional District, which has been held by the longtime Democrat Bill Pascrell for almost 2 decades. Billy won the primary on January 7, 2020, with little to no support, minimal funds, our state being shut down. Billy was able to break a record and obtain more Republican votes than any candidate that has ever run in New Jersey's 9th district, which is heavily Democratic in the past 30 years, by adding an additional 33,235 more votes for Republicans than the highest vote getter in 2016. After obtaining these incredible results, and despite all of the challenges Billy faced, he is confident that he can bring new, fresh ideas to the Republican Party into the state of New Jersey. As a first-generation American, a staunch believer in the Constitution and conservative causes, Billy knows what it takes to win, inspire the younger Americans to support our cause as well. Billy believes now is the perfect time for young new leadership to reignite, to spark in the Republican Party, and bring glory back to the 9th District. Billy understands he cannot accomplish this alone. It will take a team effort. Billy states, "Fight for me, and I'll fight for you." I'm so excited to have in the studio today my dear friend who was running for Congress in the 9th District, Billy Prempeh. Good evening, sir.
Chauncey, how's everything? Thank you for having me.
It's an honor and a pleasure, Billy. You know, you're an extraordinarily young man. Like I talked about earlier, you left Paterson to go off to the service, come back to Paterson again. Talk about your experiences coming back to Paterson and what you found after going off into the military that made you want to get up and stand up and fight back against the issues that are plaguing the city of Paterson and 9th District.
Well, when I left, for starters, there's people riding dirt bikes in the middle of Paterson making a lot of noise while getting chased by a police car. That actually just happened right now. But Paterson is a very different place from before I left. Before it was even though it had its ups and downs and it had its problems, it was a relatively safe place. But upon returning, the gun violence has gotten completely out of control. Where in the past 2 years, it surpassed records. 2020 has broken the 1986 record for violent crime, while 2021 broke 2020's record. In 2022, we're already at our 7th murder from gun violence, with many others being harmed in the process. The violence that's happening out here is senseless. Drugs are flooding our streets, and it's starting to spill out into other towns within our district. And when I start to see that our district's falling out of control, I always see one common denominator, and that's my opponent, who's been there for the past 26 years. He talks about all the things that makes him great, but he really doesn't have much to show for it in regards to the well-being of people's lives. Today, we see him on social media spending most of his time bashing the former presidents, bashing the Republican Party, and constantly finding ways to divide and split the opinions of the people without actually trying to unify. And I believe that's where a lot of the root of the problems our country is facing is where like we used to be. And I want to bring some more common sense back into our government, because if we don't do that, what future are we going to leave for not just my generation, but the generations to come after me? And I'm still a very young man.
Absolutely. The 9th District encompasses how many towns in New Jersey?
There's 35 towns broken up amongst Passaic County, Bergen County, which is the largest part of the district, and Hudson County, which has two municipalities.
Okay. What have you learned as a new person entering into the political arena that you didn't know before you entered into politics?
Well, a lot of the people that are in politics that I've seen so far play for personal agendas and personal favors. It's very far and few between that you find an honest politician that genuinely cares for the people and is trying to work in the best interest of them. And I had to navigate that and kind of find out who were people that were looking for change and looking to prop up change, and those that were a part of maintaining the status quo. And realizing that firsthand was probably the biggest eye-opener, because I got into politics very naive, thinking that, I could, make a change and do things overnight without the full grasp and understanding that there's some very big people at play, some of them very bad people. That don't really care much for the people that are willing to do whatever it takes, whether it's spending their money, smearing you in the media, or whatever it is, to harm a political adversary. And it's a shame, because these actors that are working on their own best interest, they do it at the detriment of the people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we see that in Patterson. Like you said, the crime is on the rise. The streets are filthy. It's just really horrific, the amount of mental illness, the amount of drug addicts walking around the street. It really is a sad state from Patterson 30 or 40 years ago. What are some of the ideas that you have if you get to Congress to bring what type of funding? Hello?
Sorry, repeat that again?
Yeah, I said, I know this is your second time running. I know that you thought of ideas that if you've gotten to Congress, you would legislate to try to bring funds into this district. What are some of the ideas that you have in bringing funding into the district, and what are some of your ideas as far as business development, educational programs, recreation, reduce crime, reduce taxes? What are some of your ideas as it relates to bringing?
So first things first, there's a lot of drugs that are moving in and out of the 9th District, and it's starting to spill out into other areas as well. Patterson, unfortunately, is one of the primary hubs where these issues are taking place, and our police departments are very understaffed to even resolve this issue. And I believe that they need more funding so that they can get more officers on the street, get them the appropriate equipment that they need, and the training that they need to remain effective and stay effective at their job. Now, not just in Patterson as well, though, but in other surrounding towns, like in Hackensack, Teterboro, Passaic, and even recently in Rutherford, I've been hearing lots of reports of overdoses that have been on the rise in Rutherford. It's one of the areas where a lot of fentanyl has been moving through, and it's affecting people all across the area. So it's not just here in large cities like Patterson where there's a drug infestation, but it's going on in other areas, and it's spreading like a virus. So we need the funding to actually get our police on the streets so that they can start clearing these issues up. Now, in terms of bringing funding into the community, bringing money into the community, one of the plans that I have is something called the Revive America Plan that would offer tax incentives to businesses, large manufacturers that are willing to rehabilitate and reinvest in vacant and derelict factories that have been left behind. A place like Patterson, for example, which is a manufacturing powerhouse, at one point has many factories that are currently unused and sitting derelict. Why not give large corporations the ability to rehabilitate these buildings and bring businesses back, give people an opportunity to work in these factories again? And we need to bring more manufacturing back into this country altogether as well. Now, another thing that I'd like to bring in is something called the Freedom of Education Plan. I recently put a video out on my social media breaking down what it entails. And what the Freedom of Education Plan does is it's a school choice program that practically expands to the public schools. I realized the success of the school choice system and the fact that they offer extracurricular information and activities to help children excel. And I figured that the public schools need that same kind of boost that the school choice systems have. But how do we do that without increasing taxes but improving the curriculum for our students? The way that I figured out we could do this is by having people that have mastered their trades and specific skills such as IT, software, finance, electrical, the trades, and many more. We can have these experts that have done this for years, work inside of our schools or employ one of their best craftsmen or tradesmen to work inside of our schools. They receive a tax incentive for doing so to teach the children how to do what they do so that by the time these students come out of high school, they're coming out with a certification and not just coming out with a diploma and a vague idea of what they want to do going into college. Because we have an epidemic where there's students going into college, going for degrees, and working in careers completely unrelated to their degrees that can't even pay for the student loan debt that they just accumulated. So I want to give children the opportunity to not just pay their way through college with their new skills, but even lead them down a direction that can put them on a career path for the future. And that's what America needs. America needs to invest in our future, needs to invest in our youth as well, too, because they are the future. There's many jobs that we have that are going overseas, and they're going out to other workers from other countries that are coming here when America already has a strong and eager workforce. We need to invest in our students and invest in our people so that they can push America forward forever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The trades are very, very important. They need to come back, especially manufacturing. America needs to be first again at manufacturing and making things and exporting things. I couldn't agree with you, 100%. For those that are tuning in, you're listening to America First Patriot Podcast, and we have Billy Prempeh, who is a veteran running for Congress in New Jersey's 9th District, running up against long-term Democratic Congressman Bill Pasquarello for the second time. Billy, we have somebody that's called in and raising her hand. Would you like to take a question from the audience? Okay, hold on. Let's see who's calling in. Good evening, caller.
Hello? Yeah, this is
Hello?
Nathan
Yes.
in Orlando. Yeah, this is Nathan in Orlando.
How you doing, Nathan?
Pretty good. I got a question, and I guess pretty much a statement and a question for the candidate. I hope he gets in there. But here's something that we don't hear about. Congressional, according to the U.S. Constitution, there is no districts in the Constitution. The Congress members go to D.C. for two reasons: to serve the population, just based on how much the population, how many congressmen we send up there, and the other reason is to bring back the money. And here's what districts is. It's not in the Constitution. Here's what districts does. It separates us based on that systemic policy, systemic word. Here's what it does. It separates us on social, political, economic, racial, and whatever other disagreements we've got. It separates us into districts. And I would like to see all the congressmen from my state sit down and discuss everything and not their district, and do what's right for their state and not their district. Can you, if you agree with this, after looking at the Constitution, we got this same battle here in Florida on districts competing and stuff, and our governor, he came up, and a lot of people are excited about this, but he came up with a reason why he's doing out of the 14th. But Article 2 says we don't have districts.
Well, that's something that's a new concept that I'm not familiar with, so I would actually have to look into that and get a little bit more information before I can give you a more educated answer. That's honestly a concept that I've never considered, so thank you for bringing that up, though. I've never thought about that.
Yeah, well, you've heard this on the racial issue. You got these railroad tracks that separate this neighborhood over here. I'll give you a good one you'll remember. Allen West here in Florida, he was a rock star. And whenever he got up to Washington, D.C., the Republican Party decided they didn't want him. So they decided to redistrict his district. And then he won. He lost within 500 points. to the Democrat, and he had a right to call for a recount at that if it was less than 500, and the Republican says no, we don't want to do it. That was their way of saying you're not a part of the team up here, and they were willing to pick the Democrat that they don't like, and throw the Republican overboard. And I just say go read Article 1, Section 2. And you find that consistent all through the three documents. But thank you. I'm gonna hang up and keep listening.
Thank you.
Nathan, thank you so much. Billy, Nathan is a frequent caller into the show. When we first started a month ago, he's been very, very knowledgeable and informative on the Constitution, and we had him on a couple times. He talked about the Constitution. I guess he heard me talking about the districts, and that's when he raised his hand. I did not look it up myself, but I'm going to remember that in the Constitution. I think he said it's Article 2 in the Constitution, or Article 1, Section 2? Are you there?
Yeah, that's what he said. Article 1, Section 2.
Yeah. I'm going to have to look that up because that's very, 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 very interesting, extremely knowledgeable on the Constitution. I think what I'm going to do in the near future is probably start doing a podcast, a series on the Constitution, and break it down and have different people come on and talk about different sections of the Constitution so the American people, we, the people, would get an understanding better of how these people are misrepresenting us and taking advantage of the people that they're supposed to represent. Billy, on the national landscape side, what are some of your national issues? Apparently, I know it's going to be drugs because we have a fentanyl crisis, a drug crisis here in the Northeast. Where's your stance on
one of the number one issues.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first things first, we need to secure our border. That's the number one thing that I think needs to be done in the United States. Is a country isn't a country without its secure borders. While we could send billions of dollars overseas to other countries, we just recently sent $14 billion to Ukraine. President Trump, he was trying to secure about $5 billion to secure the southern border. The Congress said that it was too expensive, and instead they sent $50 billion down to Honduras and El Salvador to help bring in the migrant caravan instead. It's completely unacceptable. And after seeing it firsthand, I realized that the issues that we face there are not as simple and as clear-cut as the media makes it seem. It's not as simple as opening the door and letting everybody in, nor is it as simple as tracking everyone down and getting them out. So the first thing we need to do is secure our border and find a way to get these people out into the surface and find a way to get our country right back on the right track. So one thing that I think needs to be done is serious investment in newer technologies as well to detect breaches at our southern border.
Absolutely. What is your current position on education as it relates to CRT and also children learning about sexual behavior and sexual conduct in early ages?
I think it's unacceptable. And when it comes to sexual preference and sexual ideology and these kinds of gender information that they're trying to push into our children, it's not the teacher's position, nor is it the government's position to tell our children what to think or what to believe in terms of sexuality. That's something that should be between the parents, and I think the government's taking it a little too far by interjecting their own beliefs into the next generation. As for CRT and that curriculum, I believe that it's pretty flawed. I believe that if the education and the story of the United States needs to be taught truthfully and correctly, and that's the good, bad, and the ugly, and even the good that the other side refuses to acknowledge as well. I think all of it needs to be taught, but with the problem that I have with CRT is it's taught from the lens that all things are racist, and that white people are inherently racist, some people are better than others, and I don't think that actually benefits America as a whole. In fact, I think it does a lot more to divide it. And these days, not a lot of people in the United States are aware of the history of our country, and I think that we should put more focus on that rather than teaching our children to be activists.
I couldn't agree more, and then that goes right into the public education system, is our public education is failing to teach our children about American government, American history, just normally, civic responsibility, statesmanship, founding fathers. I don't even think that they have these conversations anymore. It's sad. You know, we don't have the Pledge of Allegiance in the schools anymore. We don't have prayer in the schools anymore. You know, the schools are becoming, unfortunately, the wrong breeding ground, well, for their socialist communist agenda, because that's what they're trying to push. Like you said, the government's trying to indoctrinate our children, and
absolutely,
you know, and that is immoral and unjust. That is not the responsibility of government to play daddy and to impose their will upon anyone, but to assist where they are needed. You know, it's sad that we have half this country that believe in the left and the democratic philosophy that, you know, that you owe me something, or, you know, you gotta give me something. It's sad. You know, I put a post up today on LinkedIn about make America wealthy again, and this young person's comment was, make it equitable. And the first thing I thought about was, make it equitable. When I come into this life, nobody gives me anything. See, that's the difference between, I think, a conservative or Republican and a Democrat. I don't expect anything from anybody. Whatever I acquire in life, I acquire. No one owes me anything in life. And when that young man says equitable, I'm saying to myself, what is he looking for? Because he's saying that something is not fair. What is not fair? Where you have the freedom in our country to go and become and make as much money as you, to be whatever you want to be. Nothing is holding you back. And I just thought that that was ironic that he commented that everything should be equitable, because nothing has ever been equitable. You know? So, Billy, what are some of the other national issues that hello? Billy, I hear you now.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, Billy.
Hello?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. What are some of the other national issues that you're concerned about?
Well, another one of the national issues that I'm focused on is energy independence. It's something that needs to absolutely be put in place. I think that our energy decisions should never be compromised because of political reasons. I believe that what Joe Biden has done with canceling the leases for oil and natural gas in the United States, as well as allowing for the Nord Stream pipeline to be passed through from Russia to Germany and removing those sanctions, I believe all these things were done to slide Trump and basically undo everything that the Republican Party pushed for to help get our country independent of energy. When I get to office, I'd like to see that no president or no leader, regardless of the political party that they're affiliated with, will make such a irresponsible decision in regards to our energy that could compromise our country like this ever again.
I couldn't agree more. It was so embarrassing when Biden went to the Middle East begging for oil, and they basically says, no, we're not going to give you oil. In the first week he was in office, he shut down the Alaskan pipeline, 15 to 20,000 jobs and families. I mean, this guy is just horrific. It's almost, I almost have to think that this was all planned, you know, because everything was it's almost like too orchestrated. Everything collapses at one time. I mean,
absolutely.
You know, this is, you know, open borders, and you're worrying about sending 14. Listen, you know, I feel bad for the Ukrainian people, even the Russian who are the soldiers. I don't feel bad for the government. We're sending $14 billion to Ukraine, and we've got homeless veterans on our streets. Imagine taking $14 billion and taking off all the homeless veterans off the streets of the United States.
I couldn't agree more, Chauncey.
You know, but, you know, the Democrats are always touting we're for the people. No, you're for taking the other people's money and using it how you see fit. because more money under this administration is leaving this country. You got $14 billion to Ukraine. Biden wants to work out a new nuclear Iran nuclear deal. Really? North Korea has been already testing. China is looking at Taiwan. This guy, he's feeble. It's sad. It's sad. You got to prop him up. You got to prop this guy up. Did you see the meme when Donald Trump was with the soldiers versus Biden? Did you see that meme that came out? Biden's eating pizza and it's all stoic and everything, versus, when Donald Trump is there, everybody's trying to, get around him and shake his hand and stuff, Billy, listen, I thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. Before you go, would you share with my audience if they want to donate, volunteer, or, get a hold of you, share the information, please, with the listeners?
You can find more information about the campaign at www.billyprempeh.com. That's BILLYPREMPEH.com. Chauncey, thank you so much for having me, brother.
Listen, Billy, I know you're busy. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you have a busy schedule tonight, man. Be safe out there. God bless you, man. And I'll see you on the campaign trail, okay?
Thank you, brother.
All right, take care. You're welcome. God bless. You were listening to American First Patriot Podcast. Freedom and liberty is our motto. I'm your Patriot host, Chauncey Brown. We just heard veteran Billy Prempeh, who's running against longtime Democratic Congressman Bill Pasquarello in New Jersey's 9th District. This young man is running for a second time, broke all kinds of records, for the Republican Party when he ran, 33,235 more votes than any Republican, since I think 2016. So we're looking at this guy to do big things this election. So these numbers are going to climb. The Democratic Party is in trouble, and we're going to look to see some big things actually across the whole country. Okay, join us on Wednesday, hopefully, at 7 o'clock. We're going to have Corey Mills running out of Florida 11th District. He was supposed to be on the Chauncey Show. He had a family emergency, I think, with his son got hurt at a ball game. So Corey hopefully will be here in the studio on America First Patriot Podcast on Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Please follow us on Twitter. Oh, I want to thank all of our Twitter followers. We're over 4,000 Twitter followers since we launched Twitter, I guess a little over 5 or 6 weeks ago. I want to say thank you to all of our followers and our supporters for tuning in. We're here every Monday and Wednesday night from 7 to 8. If you can, we'd appreciate if you're able to donate. PayPal me, USA First Podcast. PayPal me, USA First Podcast, I believe. I believe that's what it is. USA First Podcast or American First Patriot Podcast. I think it's PayPal me at USA First Patriot Podcast. I'll make sure from now on I'll add the link to the bio of the description. So if anyone would like to join, and help to donate, we would appreciate. We run this for we the people. We don't want to accept any donations from big corporations because we do not want our voices to be influenced. What you hear is what you're going to get. Real issues, real talk, real people. We thank you all for tuning in to America First Patriot Podcast. Please tune in on Wednesday. God bless you all. Keep the faith. Until next time, have a good night.